Hello, 911?
Hey, please help me. Somebody's trying to get in my house.
What are they doing?
They've tied my front door and my side door, and now they're trying to break in my back gate. Please hurry, please.
Ma'am, they're coming out. They're coming out now.
It just broke in.
It just broke?
Yeah, they broke my exterior door.
Okay, yeah, I've got them coming out there. They're coming out as fast as they can. Yeah, you don't need to answer anything. I'm going to stay on the line with you, okay?
From a frightening encounter with a home intruder to someone who was home alone and had a terrifying encounter with someone incredibly dangerous, here are 8 scary home intruder experiences. I've written about this before, but it may have been under a different username. September 1998. I am a 22-year-old mom, at home on the computer in the front room while my kid napped in the adjoining room. Front door swings open, and a Hispanic guy around 5'6" and 180 walks in. I wasn't initially alarmed, as we had a Hispanic family move in a few doors up the street recently, and I figured he was in the wrong place. I tell him calmly he is looking for the other house. He gives no inclination of understanding. I more forcefully tell him, and again nothing. At this point, I am getting alarmed. I am tiny, 5'3", 90 pounds at the time, and the room is a simple office, not a lot of weapons. The third time, I yell for him to get out. My biggest fear is waking the kid who hasn't been sleeping long. For some reason, I looked at the kid's closed door when I yelled, and the intruder followed my gaze. Then he took a step towards my kid's room. In that moment, I knew I would die before I would let him through that door. A quick survey of my surroundings reminded me I had scissors in my pencil cup on the desk. I buried those scissors so far into his abdomen, I cut my own hand on the handle. Then I jerked them towards me as hard as I could. Blood went everywhere. His eyes got huge, and then he ran back out the door. The police followed the blood trail for several blocks, but assumed he was picked up when the trail stopped. They sent an officer to every hospital in the area, but he never went for treatment. I had to have HIV tests for 2 years since our blood mingled. No idea what happened to him, but he lost a lot of blood. To this day, I lock my door even if I'm just going to the car. My kid still rolls his eyes when I tell him I would hurt someone intending to do him harm. I was home alone on a Saturday night, and my roommate had left for the weekend. We often left the side door unlocked for friends who would go downstairs and crash on the couch. I would frequently hear, "It's blank," as they would come in. So I'm laying in bed in my birthday suit reading a book at 2 in the morning, and I hear the screen door open. My dog perks up at the noise. He's a 110-pound Shepherd Newfie mix that looks like a wolf. He lets out a little boof. Leaning forward in bed, I can see the doorway. I look and see the doorknob turning. "Hello," I shout, thinking it was a friend. It was not a friend. A strange man's head poked through the door. We make eye contact. He has this weird look on his face as he proceeds into the landing. Wrong house," I screamed, thinking he was just in the wrong home. When I screamed, my dog got up and went to my bedroom doorway. The guy stopped in his tracks. My dog's hackles raised, and he started snarling. I was even scared by him a bit. The guy stopped when he saw my dog and started backing up. "Get the fuck out of my house," I screamed. My dog jumped. The guy fell backwards into the door, and my dog grabbed him by the leg and shook him like a rag doll. I stopped caring about being naked at this point. I jumped out of bed and threw on my housecoat while this guy was screaming bloody murder. Blood all over the floor. I grabbed my dog's back leg and sat down on the floor trying to hold on to him. The guy stumbled to his feet and grabbed the doorknob before looking back. He took a glance at me with my robe hanging open and my dog still snarling at him. "I will let him go," I screamed again. My dog jumped and I did my best to hold on, but one leg got out of my grasp and he lunged at the guy. The guy finally turned and fell out of the door. I immediately got up and locked it. There's blood all over my floor. My dog's fur is still raised as he stands at the door growling. I called the police. They came, took a statement, and left. I never found out what happened to the guy. I took my dog to the vet and he was fine. I never left the side door unlocked again. I've never been so thankful for my dog. Here's Baxter, the hero. I was 12 years old, hanging out with my dad watching a movie at around 1 in the morning. All of a sudden, there is pounding on the door. My dad gets up and twists the knob. As soon as he does, the door flies open, and a mountain of a man throws the door open. My dad is pretty big himself, but gets knocked to the floor, but happens to grab the guy's shirt on the way down. They start wrestling and fist fighting in the entrance of our doorway. I'm standing at the top of the steps looking down and watching all this in slow motion. My dad starts screaming to get his shotgun out of his closet. I run upstairs, grab the shotgun, run back to the top of the steps, and pump around into the chamber. Immediately after hearing the sound, the guy tries to run away, but my dad holds him down on the ground. At this time, my neighbors had heard the yelling and scuffle and ran over. They call the police while my dad is holding this guy against the ground, and me, a 12-year-old kid, aiming a shotgun at the back of this dude's head. The police end up coming with their guns drawn, and I put the shotgun on the sidewalk. The guy ends up getting arrested, and supposedly had just gotten out of jail for a strong-arm robbery and battery. I can't even imagine what would have happened if I had been alone, considering my dad has worked third shift my entire life. But it just happened on one of his nights off. My dad was literally a superhero to me after that day. Whether or not this was an attempted murder is up for debate. It was 1 in the morning, and I was home from college. My brother was a senior in high school, asleep in his room. My mom in her bedroom. I heard the utility door to the back of the garage struggle to slowly open. So I assumed my brother was trying to sneak out. I texted him, got no response. I then heard the door shut. I left my bedroom and went to his to see if he had left, but he was asleep in his bed. I walked up to the bed and said, "Wake up, someone is in the house." It was weird because I was the only one awake hearing these things, and I didn't have much time to process it. But I just knew something was off. Then I went to my mom's bedroom and said, "Wake up, someone is in the house. Call the neighbors and 911. She freaked out, of course, and called. I grabbed a baseball bat I kept by my bed and went downstairs alone. Stupid as hell, but adrenaline, I guess. I walked through our big house in the dark, alone, and heard tripping or shuffling coming from the room that leads to the garage. I was hitting the walls and doors, yelling, "Who is there?" as I got closer, in hopes of scaring whoever it was away. Once I was about 6 to 10 feet from the room, I slammed the bat on the door to the room and yelled again for the person to leave. I heard a crash and the outside door slam. I flipped on the light and no one was there. I went back upstairs to my mom and brother. The police were on their way. When they arrived, they brought dogs and also found prying marks on the outside door. A couple blocks down the road, my addict schizophrenic dad was arrested, leaving the direction of our house and intoxicated. He has always owned weapons and has left threatening messages for us before, but never anything like that. I have no proof it was him and no proof he was coming to kill or hurt us, but I had a gut feeling immediately something very dark was in that house. I was 21 and in college. I lived in a house of girls, but only one was there that night, and her boyfriend was staying over. Middle of the night, I hear footsteps and wake up. I figured it was my housemate or her boyfriend, so I'm just laying there, and my bedroom door opens. I see a huge man standing in the doorway, using a lighter to see in the dark. I sit up in bed and couldn't believe this was really happening. In my head, I was just trying to figure out if I was dreaming or not. We just sit there staring at each other for a good 10 seconds. I finally realize it's real and say to him, "What do you want? Get out of my house." I'm still surprised I didn't scream or freak out. and he just shuts the door to my room. My heart is racing at this point. I hear him open my roommate's door, and then it closes too. I hear him go back downstairs. 2 seconds later, the boyfriend bursts into my room and is like, "Someone is in the house." I say I know and then grab my cell and call 911. The cops come and arrest the guy. Why he didn't bolt, I don't know. They found him sitting in our basement. Anyways, the police phoned me the next morning and told me the guy was a sex offender who was out on probation. He then went straight back to jail. 4 years ago, I got into an argument at a party that escalated into a minor fight. The other guy was an old friend who had recently moved back to town after living elsewhere for a decade. After the scuffle, we made up, hung out for another hour or so, and I walked him most of the way to his house. Mine was only 3 blocks away from his. Woke up in a dead panic a couple hours later to the sound of glass breaking. Someone was battering my garage door, trying to get through, and not being quiet about it. I called 911, explained my situation, and posted up next to my living room door with a baseball bat. I left the phone on the ground, still on the line with emergency. The intruder made it through the last door, and I attacked with a bat. Connected about 5 or 6 solid hits to the head and 1 to the ribs before the intruder collapsed. Turned on the light, and I recognized this person. It's the wife of the guy I fought with the evening before. She had a weapon on her too. Police came, ambulance took her away, and everyone left after a few hours. It was awful. She admitted to trying to attack me in my sleep to the police. I declined to press charges after speaking with her husband, so long as she got adequate psychological help. She spent 2 months in ICU, but ultimately pulled through. She's been nothing but a nightmare to everyone I know since then. I was 14 and home alone. We were living in a crappy part of nowhere in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time. Someone drove up and knocked on our sliding glass door. I was nervous, but I stayed silent. Then they tried to force the door open, but it was held shut with a pole. So they gave up and drove away. I figured that was the end of it. Shortly thereafter, they came back. I heard the sound of someone pressing against the exterior wall. It was them cutting the phone lines to our security system and the alarm speaker. By then, I was on the phone with 911, informing them what was happening. Heavy thudding started to come from the front door as someone bashed it in, breaking the dead bolt. I was terrified and pleaded with 911 to please get someone out here right away. Whoever it was must have heard me talking on the phone because they immediately left, although the front door was broken and wide open. It took the cops another 20 minutes to arrive. The person who broke in the door must have cut himself doing it because our porch had droplets of blood on it. My dad screamed at me for not getting a license plate number while I cried. The people who broke in were never caught, and I've never felt safe anywhere since. I had nightmares for a long time. There was a guy hanging around my apartment complex for at least 5 hours, claiming to have been waiting for someone. At night, my husband went out to walk our dog, and I was in the bathroom. He realized he didn't lock the door, and remembered that guy. Turned back after only a minute, and found the guy in the process of opening our door. My husband is 6'4", and my dog is a 65-pound bull terrier. My husband started yelling, but what I saw scare the shit out of him the most was my dog trying to take him down. Never saw that guy again. Thanks for watching. If you've had any scary home invasion experiences, let me know down below in the comments. Thanks, and until next time.